Welcome to the next episode of CNMI Speaks Out. CNMI Speaks Out is about domestic violence and CNMI culture. With this podcast, we will hear stories of brave women who overcame domestic violence and know more about their cultural upbringing. I'm your host, Jennifer Taman, and today we have the privilege of hearing our guest story. However, for safety and confidentiality purposes, our guest identity will remain anonymous. So, guests, welcome and thank you so much for being here and sharing with us your story. My first question would be: Can you tell us a little bit about your story? When did your relationship started, and how will you describe your relationship?
Hi, Jennifer. I'm Elizabeth. Well, my story started dated August 23, 2002. That is the start of the story. So at first, I feel like I'm in a cloud nine because we're both happy and in love with each other. But things started to be differentiately. Um, they that I think after I gave birth with our first child, that was January of 2004,
Yeah.
because um that's the first, um how do you call this? Things change briefly at January of 2004, because that is the first infidelity incident happened.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I discovered things about 2 months after I gave birth with a child. He dated this girl for a
Mm-hmm.
month, and this girl was calling me, calling our house, just hanging up the phone if I answer it. But when my ex-husband answered the phone, he does a little conversation. Then they pretend that was to be a wrong number. Then the second infidelity happens, I think, same date. This is one of his manager at his work.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were doing some, um, things that supposed to be happened. They went to a motel, and he told me that he was in overtime work for his during his overtime work. Then the next infidelity incident, actually, I don't have any idea because it has repeated over times. Then the last infidelity, which keeps me torturing my physically and even emotionally, happens last 2007, which she bring along the girl inside my house, then introduced me to her as his friend. Well, actually, during that moment, I have a different feelings that things was not usually, or this is so unusual to me. Then my daughter told me about this girl, that this was his current girlfriend back then. So that time, I was so anxious about things what's happening on my marriage. I was fighting for it, but I think it's not worth fighting for. So that is why I was decided to end up this relationship.
So I guess the constant cheating and the constant betrayal kind of contributed to your mental state as well. Would you say that?
Oh yes, it has a lot of contribution with my mental health,
Yeah.
because I was physically and mentally abused by that time.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that you went through that. When or how did you come to a realization that you were in a domestic relation, like you were in a domestic relationship?
Um, I think that was about 2 years after the separation that I know that I am already free from that domestic violence, because I already um move, or let's say, not I realized that after, or I think two 2 years after the separation from 2007, so that was 2009, because I already moved in, I already moved about that relationship, because I was so that was, I think, 2 years from that was 2009, since when I moved on from that relationship, because I realized and I accepted the fact that it will no longer work for it. After fighting for so long, I think that infidelity, he won't stop in his infidelity, and he's so happy doing those things. And I think that I need to move on from that relationship.
Well, good for you. Good for you that you found your strength. Can you describe or explain what do you think led up? You said right you were physically abused as well, or emotionally abused. Can you please bring us back to the first time it actually happened and when you realized it was happening to you? What led up to it?
Oh, that was the first infidelity happened that I was so anxious, overthinking about why he's not going home on time, what happened, why he didn't help me on bringing up my child. I think maybe I was confused if that was a part of postpartum depression. But years, as time years goes on, in the same incident happened, I feel so devastated in my life. Why is this happening after giving up my education? And I want to hold on this family. And you know, he hits me when he didn't get what he wants. He says words that is not listening to my ears, that it's so hurtful when I realize why he's doing this to me. Am I deserve this? So I think that is part of my mental depression.
Right, right. Yeah, totally. I totally agree with you. That could totally bring um so much anxiety to us going through that. I I can relate. I went through the same thing. After you realizing you were in a violent relationship, did you reach out for help or talk to anyone about it?
Actually, at first I was shy. I was so shy about my situation. Why is this happening to me? I thought I was in a cloud nine, with a happy family. I haven't reached anyone at first, but later on, I just want to release my feelings, so I reached out to some friends. Friend of mine seek help and advice of what should I do with this, because I want my child to have a family that she could grow up with. But I think that is not necessarily anymore, because that would be helpful to my child to grow up with a kind of relationship we're happy.
Right.
And it would cause depression also to my child's growing and seeing this kind of this kind of relationship.
Right. So, how did they respond when you told them that, hey, I'm going through these things? Were they supportive or were they like what was their response?
Oh, most of my friends tells me that you have to do what is right, and what you think what you have to do what is right for you and for your child. If you're not longer happy with your relationship, then move out.
Right, right,
Most of my friends told me that, because they says that if you stay longer into this kind of relationship, it is not only you will be devastated, or your life will be devastated, it's also with your child. So it is better to get out of this relationship as early as you could, because there was no respect, no love, and no trust. So why should I stay with this?
Yep, that's true. Okay, yeah, I understand. Those are very important factors in a relationship. And I think if one of them are not longer there, like it's hard to continue a relationship. Um, So what, like earlier you said, right, after the third infidelity, after the third time he cheated on you, was that was your final straw? So you decided to leave.
Actually,
Uh-huh.
I haven't said that that was the third.
Oh.
That was the last infidelity I've known.
Oh, that was the one you knew. Okay, okay, okay. So there could have been more. So,
Yeah.
is it safe to say that throughout the relationship where he was cheating, like cuz I know how it feels like to be cheated on, and like it just makes you like it just makes you feel like you're paranoid or you're crazy because you're assuming, and then they turn around and say like no, that's not true. Like would you like do you relate to that? Like it's just messing with my head. Yeah.
Oh yes, definitely. Every time that I ask him why are you so late and
Mm.
why are you receiving this text, he just told me that don't bother that thing, just one of the girls that wanted me, then so on and so on.
Okay. So, how long were you in the marriage? Like physically being together or
Actually we've been married for about we're about 4 years of marriage, but
yeah.
I think only 1 year, only 1 year of that 4 years that I felt that I was happy. Then the rest is, huh.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand what you mean. Okay, so for 4 years, what made you can you tell us what made you decide, like I know you did say that the reason why you wanted to stay longer was for your child, for your daughter, and for your family, right?
Yes,
And then you decided to leave because um you had enough and you knew that you deserved better and you wanted a better environment for your child because you know that this would affect her also emotionally and emotionally and mentally.
yes.
So before you reach out to friends, before you shared your story to a friend or to your friends, did anything prevented you from telling anyone or reaching out to anyone about what was going on with you or sharing your story? I know you did
Oh,
say
yes.
why you're shy. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely that is the main factor. I was not in a stage of accepting that my marriage is a failure.
Right.
That's why I kept myself, I kept it inside myself and not reaching out to others because I want to picture that our relationship was happy and that our marriage is getting stronger, but it wasn't.
Right. Right. Okay, when you left your relationship, right? When you left that, can you tell us your experience of how you felt, how your daughter's experience was, and the reaction of your friends and family?
Okay. At first, at first year of the marriage, I was crying a lot, and I was just like staying inside the house. Then at one moment or at one point of my life, my daughter asked me not to cry anymore. The exact word she said to me that please stop crying. I'm still here for you. We're still family. So back then, I think that that was of the one moment that changed my mindset. That I think it is time to reach out for someone's help. And when I reached out to family, of course, they were very supportive financially, um, physically, and mentally. They told me that everything happens for a reason. You have to be strong for your child. Where he's still here for you. Just let me know what you need. Same goes with my friends. They visited me here in my house so that I have a company with, or someone I can talk to. Then I think that is part of my moving on process.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that you had that support system through your hardest time. And I'm so happy that you had your daughter with you. Do you believe that your culture or your upbringing contributed to the way you responded to domestic violence? And can you explain?
Um, I don't think I was bring up with that kind of situation. Maybe because of the family support or the support systems I got from the family and friends. It's the reason of my moving on process. The culture, I think, because I believe that if you're in a marriage or if you're in a marriage, you have to fight for it and you have to live together as long as you live. But ways ways happen differently for me. So that's it.
Yeah. So I guess because you grew up in this kind of environment thinking that, once you're married, you have to work it out, right? Like everyone I've heard that already. Like I've heard that, once you get married, you have to fight for that marriage, and sometimes even if the marriage is so unhealthy, you still keep fighting because that's what we were taught when we were young. Yeah, I understand. So what advice would you wish you could give yourself before the violence began, or before the cheating, or before the mental abuse began?
My advice for myself before that I was so worth it that I don't deserve that kind of treatment, and I should be treated respectfully and lovingly because that is that is the attitude that I show with my relationship because I also want to receive that kind of attitude to me.
Right, that's true. Well said. It's what you give is what you should get, right? Exactly.
Yes.
What advice would you give to other survivors or individuals who still currently in domestic relationship?
Okay. For others that's still in the domestic violence, like if you think that or if you're having a hard time with your marriage, and if you think that it won't help you grow as a person, then I think it is time to move out because you're not the only first person that you will do this. You deserve someone better. You deserve a better life. Your child or your children deserve a better family than you having current right now. So there's also help. You could also ask help for others, and first you have to accept yourself and love yourself and think that you deserve more.
Nice, nice advice. Yes, everybody deserves more. Um, what do you wish the CNMI community understood about domestic violence?
I wish that the CNMI would talk more about awareness, talk more about domestic violence, and break down barriers.
Yeah, that's true. I think awareness and breaking down barriers are all important part of allowing our community to know more about domestic violence. Well, guys, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. That's such a beautiful story. Um,
Thank you so much, Jen.
well, there you have it. That's the end of our episode. And to our listeners out there, always remember that you deserve the best in life and that you're worth it. You're worth every fight and that you deserve to be treated with respect. To our listeners out there, hope you all enjoyed today's episode and thank you for tuning in with us. Please come back again next week as we talk more about domestic violence and cinema culture. Lastly, if you are experiencing domestic violence or know someone who might be experiencing domestic violence, please call 911 or our Cinemized Victim Hotline at 670-234-5100. Thank you, and please tune in again next week. The CNMI Speaks Out has been made possible in part by a major grant from the Northern Marianas Humanities Council and the National Endowment for the Humanities. Any views, finding, conclusion, or recommendation expressed in this podcast do not necessarily represent those of the Northern Marianas Humanities Council or the National Endowment for the Humanities.